Man of Tomorrow will be the sequel to Superman, bringing back the three main characters of Superman, Lex Luthor, and Lois Lane, and in addition to that, only one character has been officially confirmed to be returning, that being Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl. From this, we could assume that the rest of the Justice Gang will be returning as well, those being Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and maybe even Maxwell Lord. But also, we saw in Peacemaker that the Justice Gang are openly recruiting members for their team, with Man of Tomorrow likely taking place 2 years after Superman, given it comes out 2 years later. You've gotta assume the Justice Gang will expand by then, right? Well, in this video, I'll be going over who I think the Justice Gang should recruit by the events of Man of Tomorrow, and predict what they'll look like by the end of the movie. Make sure to subscribe and become a member of this channel in the Noble tier or above for early access to videos, and in the King tier for a special shout out. Thanks to these members for the extra support, it's really appreciated. Right now, the team is led by Guy Gardner and includes Mr. Terrific, Hawkgirl, and the newly recruited Metamorpho. They rejected White Rabbit and Peacemaker, which should also eliminate the rest of the Peacemaker associated characters. They aren't going to recruit Vigilante or Judo Master, that's for sure. I think we could also eliminate the Trinity and any of their super family members. They, I believe, are being set up as the faces of the superhero community in the DCU, and those who usher in a new era and a new team, the Justice League. They therefore will not be members of the Justice Gang, nor will Nightwing, Robin, Wonder Girl, etc. I'm also not considering any hero who is already a prominent member of another team or should be on another team. This includes the Creature Commandos, the Metal Men, the Authority, and members of the Teen Titans. And it goes without saying that none of the heroes from the Hall of Justice mural will be considered. They're all either dead, retired, or not even really a hero at all. Everyone else is fair game, so let's start by going over every remaining DCU hero, going in order of character debuts. This means that we begin with Blue Beetle. Right off the bat, Blue Beetle is an obvious candidate. He's a powerhouse hero, meaning they'd want to recruit him. He's around the same age as Hawkgirl, and whose movie released in 2023 but hasn't had a presence since. Blue Beetle, the animated series, I think will release in 2026, so we can possibly go back to back on Blue Beetle appearances after a relatively long absence, as he might even be recruited into the Justice Gang in his series, before then appearing as a member in Man of Tomorrow. A big reason for why he is an obvious choice is that the Justice Gang are very much inspired by Justice League International, of which Blue Beetle, albeit Ted Kord, was a very prominent member. Jaime is the primary Blue Beetle, so he'd be a placeholder. He'd also be likely to want to be a member, since it looks like a nice paying job he could use to support his family. The only reason I could see for why they wouldn't recruit him is that, well, for one, the uniform might not fit his armor, but also maybe the Justice Gang membership in the DCU will be given only to non-franchise main characters, which has been the case so far, in which case Jaime Reyes, with his animated series and also the live-action movie, is not a real candidate. I don't think that'll be the case though. I think it'll specifically be the prime Justice Leaguers who aren't given memberships, specifically the Trinity and a few others. That said, Ted Kord does exist in the DCU, we just don't know what they're doing with him. Like, if he comes back, will he also be Blue Beetle? The comics go crazy with things like this, but I think a live-action universe having two heroes share the same name is a lot less likely. I think we're focusing on Jaime Reyes. Ted Kord could still return and have a role here and there, but maybe more so as behind-the-scenes tech support for either Jaime Reyes or even the Justice Gang. The main reason I can see them wanting to bring Ted Kord into the fold rather than Jaime Reyes, maybe have Jaime Reyes be the franchise Blue Beetle while Ted Kord is the Justice Gang Blue Beetle, is because of the role Booster Gold is going to have in this world. Either way, I don't think Ted Kord is going to be a member. Booster Gold, however, absolutely will. Considering the pilot is currently being written, I think it's safe to assume that Booster Gold will be released in 2026 or 2027, I think more likely than not before Man of Tomorrow. And while it's only the pilot that's being written first and the whole season hasn't been written yet, I think there was a pitch, so James Gunn knows where he'll be when the season ends. They just haven't written the scripts yet. So it could be feasible for him to write him into his own script. And then following the Booster Gold show and him being established as a hero, he'll appear again in Man of Tomorrow. Booster Gold is another prominent member of Justice League International, and I don't think there is another hero in the entire DC universe it would fit to be a member of the Justice Gang more, as the Justice Gang are sponsored, they are official, but also they're a bit manufactured, all of which fits Booster Gold to a T. Like Jaime, if the Justice Gang is only non-franchise heroes, then Booster Gold can't be included. But again, I doubt it. I think Booster Gold and Blue Beetle are the two most obvious additions to the Justice Gang that exist. I would be surprised if they don't appear in Man of Tomorrow. Less obvious than that is the Flash, who I bring up next because he apparently appeared in Creature Commandos, according to the showrunner, and more specifically, apparently it's Wally West. My opinion on the Flash of the DCU in general is that the current Flash, who has been around for a while, is Barry Allen, and will be until the Flash becomes a franchise character in the DCU and a Flash project releases, in which case the franchise character won't be Barry Allen, it'll be Wally West who takes the main role. This means that currently Wally should be Kid Flash, and so is a lot more likely to be a Titan rather than a Justice Ganger. As for Barry, he just doesn't seem to be the type, he doesn't need the money since he has a day job, and I don't think the Flash of the DCU should debut that way. I think he can appear in Man of Tomorrow, in fact I think it would be fantastic if he does, but I don't think he'd be a member of the Justice Gang. Let's look at the other Lanterns of the DCU aside from Guy, neither of whom I think is very likely. Hal Jordan is a very unlikely recruit because he's unlikely to make it past Lanterns, either retiring or dying. If he is still a Green Lantern past Lanterns, he also generally doesn't fit the Justice Gang. He seems content with basing his life around the Green Lantern Corps, and of course the Justice Gang already have a Green Lantern. They don't need another one who is also elderly. Most of that also goes for Jon Stewart, who is a lot more likely. Aaron Pierre has hinted that he might appear in Man of Tomorrow, and with Guy appearing in Lanterns, maybe he'll recruit him. Then again, like I said, the Justice Gang already has a Lantern, and honestly, I could see Guy Gardner wanting to keep it that way. I also think that Jon will be in the same boat as the Trinity, maybe just a tier under. He won't be a Justice Ganger, he will be, eventually, a Justice Leaguer. So obviously I mentioned that the Trinity and their respective families should be members of the Justice Gang, but I honestly think that Supergirl could be an exception, since while Nightwing has the Titans, Robin has the Teen Titans, Wonder Girl has the Teen Titans, Supergirl doesn't really have her own team. Maybe that team could be the Justice Gang. The Justice League International did include Power Girl at one point, so Supergirl could be close to that. She also doesn't have a day job, so maybe she'd want to make money, although she probably doesn't really need it. Supergirl will certainly appear in Man of Tomorrow, but I don't think she'll be a member. I brought it up because unlike the Trinity and the rest of their families, I think Supergirl is a possibility. Having been directly name-dropped on the set of Clayface, Black Canary is now a known character in this universe and is actually not out of the realm of possibility for membership of the Justice Gang, being referenced in a 2026 movie. What if that's because Gunn has plans for her in the DCU, whether that be in an unconfirmed project or not? Why not as a member of the Justice Gang in Man of Tomorrow? An argument against it is that in Clayface you could see that she is actually a singer and a member of a band, meaning she already has a job, so like Barry Allen, maybe she doesn't need the money, but also she can't fly, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but every other member can fly or has a flying device. Black Canary might feel a bit out of place on that team. If she and Ollie are already together, he might also have an issue with her joining this type of team. An argument in favor is that she was a member of Justice League International, and I'm not sure where else they'd introduce her. They're definitely not making a Birds of Prey project or a Black Canary project, and a Green Arrow project that might not happen for a little while. As long as they make her insanely acrobatic and able to use her powers to maneuver around like Cyclops and X-Men 97, I think the fact that she can't fly doesn't necessarily need to be an issue, and honestly, I would like to see her included. Green Arrow, meanwhile, I can never see being a member. If he's comic accurate, and I think he will be, he'll be a super left-leaning, anti-corporation socialist who probably thinks Lortec is evil and the Justice Gang are corporate chills. He'd never allow himself to be sponsored by a major corporation. Swamp Thing really doesn't fit either. He's more of an isolationist and more of a protector of the green rather than an actual superhero. His movie probably won't be out by then either, so definitely not. Vixen was, at some point, basically confirmed to be a part of Gunn's plans for this world, and honestly, this would definitely be the place to introduce her. I can't see Vixen getting her own project, nor does she have much affiliation to any specific DC hero or team, that it would make sense for her to obviously appear in that character's TV show, movie, or project that isn't Justice League. They could always create something, but also, Vixen feels like she fits right in with the other members as heroes who aren't quite popular enough to have their own franchises, but are popular enough to be included. Vixen wasn't a member of the original Justice League International, but she was a member of the revamped New 52 JLI, so I think she can be included. Static, meanwhile, doesn't quite fit. He actually can get his own project, and he's a teenager. I don't think they'd recruit teens. Black Lightning is more likely, but honestly, I'd be surprised if we see Black Lightning in this world anytime soon. The Huntress doesn't feel fitting for the Justice Gang for a few reasons. I don't think they'd recruit her considering she's powerless. She's typically depicted as a killer, and they might reject her for the same reasons as Peacemaker, but also considering the project she is rumored for being a Korean language crime film, she doesn't quite fit the vibe at all. So beyond the DCU heroes or what's confirmed for the DCU, I've mentioned Justice League International a lot in this video, since it's clear with Guy Gardner being involved and it being sponsored by Maxwell Lord, the concept of the Justice Gang is based on that. With that in mind, I think every JLI member from that era has a chance to be brought Wonderwoman, alongside the likes of Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, and the Black Canary. Batman was a prominent member, but like I said, I don't think the Trinity will be involved. The next highest profile hero is the Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter has been teased by James Gunn multiple times and will absolutely appear eventually. In fact, I think Jean will appear in Man of Tomorrow. I just don't think he'll be a member of the Justice Gang. I think Jean should join Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Jon Stewart as a fifth of the big seven of the DCU who will go on to found the Justice League. Not the first 7 heroes, but the 7 best. These 7 heroes should not be members of the Justice Gang. That said, I think Jean will appear as a part of the actual story of Man of Tomorrow, being brought to Earth or revealing himself to the world because of the events of the movie. As for the remaining 2 of the quote-unquote Big 7, it should probably include Flash, Aquaman, and/or Green Arrow, all introduced a little bit later in this universe. Fire and Ice can be argued to be in that Justice Gang sweet spot in terms of popularity, but honestly, I think they're a tier lower. This doesn't necessarily mean much considering Peacemaker got an entire TV show, but also I think there is a reason they aren't very popular. There are many more interesting characters we could adapt instead. Anyone could be good though, so it's possible, and Ice has a romantic connection to Guy Gardner, so maybe they wanted to adapt that. I'm gonna assume they aren't appearing, but using them as backups, I think they could replace Vixen and Black Canary on my final prediction lineup. The rest of the members are mostly non-starters. Captain Atom is more of a US military-based hero. Mr. Miracle has more important things to do, especially if the Mr. Miracle series is DCU canon. Rocket Red isn't very interesting. Dr. Light could be saved for later. Dr. Fate is a better fit for the JSA, existing in his own space or associated some way with Justice League Dark. And Shazam, I think we could assume, will be avoided for a little while. Aside from Justice League International, it's clear that the team also took inspiration from the Terrifics. Phantom Girl is a character I could go without them ever adapting, but Plastic Man is very possible. I'm just not sure how likely. Plastic Man is an insane character who would be very difficult to adapt in live action. If anyone could do it, it'd be James Gunn. He even pitched a Plastic Man movie to Warner Brothers in the 2000s, but that's just the thing. I think Plastic Man in James Gunn's universe is a lot more likely to be getting his own movie and debuting there, rather than being a Justice Ganger, and I think that movie, which is rumored to be directed by Darren Aronofsky, will release after Man of Tomorrow, and will introduce Plastic Man. Beyond all that, there's just the Justice Gang vibe and the popularity tier list, and I think the DC heroes who do fit both of those things are Hawkman, the Atoms, Zatanna, Firestorm, Red Tornado, and Elongated Man, which are all certainly possible, and I think Firestorm and Elongated Man specifically fit the best. But also, there's literally zero evidence for them existing in the DCU aside from a few Firestorm villains existing, nor is there any evidence for them appearing in Man of Tomorrow, so I can't really include them. But just know, Firestorm, I think, very much fits the Justice Gang. So as a final prediction, I think that in the gap between Superman and Man of Tomorrow, 2 shows will release in which the Justice Gang will recruit members, being Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, while Vixen and Black Canary will be recruited off screen. So the Justice Gang will double their membership up to 8. That said, I'm also going to predict another shift to the team that will occur by the end of the movie. I think a few members, like Mr. Terrific and Metamorpho, will leave the team to go form their own independent team, the Terrifics, leaving the Justice Gang with a lineup of Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Vixen, and Black Canary. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Who do you think should be members? Who do you think they should add? Maybe characters who should leave, maybe characters who I didn't mention. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and thanks so much for watching.